Good evening. For generations, the old Bundaberg Showgrounds were far more than a parcel of land. They were where children marvelled at fireworks and rode the dodgem cars, where cattle and horses were paraded, where circuses came to town, and where countless families shared showbags, dagwood dogs, and memories that would last a lifetime. Now, the site that once lay at the heart of Bundaberg's community life is entering another chapter, with plans for the land to be offered for sale by tender. For decades, the showgrounds were synonymous with the Bundaberg show itself, hosting livestock competitions, horse events, markets, and public gatherings. But by the 1990s and early 2000s, attention had increasingly turned to the future. Aging infrastructure, rising maintenance costs, and pressure from the growth of the CBD and university precinct led to calls for a larger and more modern facility. Supporters of relocation argued the old grounds had become too cramped and difficult to access. Others warned that moving would mean losing a cherished piece of Bundaberg history. Eventually, the Show Society moved operations to the purpose-built Bundaberg Recreational Precinct at Kendalls Road. The final shows at the old grounds brought an outpouring of nostalgia. Newspaper headlines spoke of an end of an era, while former volunteers and long-time residents reflected on decades of memories. Then came demolition. Buildings disappeared. Redevelopment plans emerged. Now the story appears set to enter yet another chapter. What ultimately becomes of the site remains to be seen. But for many locals, memories of wood chopping competitions, cattle pavilions, fireworks, school excursions, and the smell of sawdust and dagwood dogs will forever be tied to the old showgrounds. From a bustling agricultural showground to a valuable inner-city landholding, one question remains: what should its future be? It was a hot topic of conversation at the June 23, 2026 Bundaberg Regional Council briefing session.
Councillors, item 11.5 is a report brought to you seeking your approval to take some council land at 45 Byron Street, Bundaberg West, to market for sale and development. I think council will be aware that the council is the owner of a freehold parcel of land, lot 4 on SP 270831, that is on the northern side of Civic Avenue opposite the multiplex facility, and is commonly known as the old showgrounds precinct. The report provides a bit of the background. I think there have been a number of attempts to develop this site that's largely vacant since the show moved to the rec precinct some years ago. However, they haven't been successful. So the officers are effectively, as we've consulted previously with the council, looking to do something slightly different. This time, rather than us developing another master plan and invest time and effort in trying to attract a particular user for a particular thing, we're instead suggesting that we take this to the market for someone to buy, but instead of just leaving it there, to ensure that council gets some of the outcomes that it's looking for out of the site. What would invite tenderers to do is submit a plan of development for the site that incorporates some non-negotiables, or maybe not, that's not the right term, but some key priorities for council, including a hotel, a publicly accessible car park that provide overflow parking for the multiplex, retention of the heritage features on the site, the Bailey Gate, and incorporating that into something that recognises the heritage of the site, retention by council of the northern part of the site that's currently under lease by CMCA, that may be used for a future naturalisation project, continuation of Byfinch Boulevard through to the intersection with Burrum and Byram Streets, pedestrian crossing in the vicinity of Bingra Street, and a housing solution on at least part of the site, possibly the northern part outside of the flood hazard area. These are things though that we'd invite tenderers to incorporate into a plan that the evaluation panel can then consider and then bring back a recommendation to the council for formal acceptance of an offer. Once that offer is accepted, as intended, the contract of sale would compel the purchaser to deliver on the approved master plan for the site, if you will, within timeframes that will be negotiated between the parties. A similar approach that was taken to the sale of council's land at Myra some years ago.
Michael, the tender intends to be very prescriptive with what outcomes council wants to see, because it is a strategic lot next to the multiplex and the aquatic centre close to town, all of that. So we're being very prescriptive with what outcomes we'd like to see. So I don't understand the last sentence in the report, in the body of the report. Any properties not sold via tender will be listed for sale on the open market and sold in accordance with section 236181 of the local government regulation. Properties sold pursuant to this section must be sold for market value as determined by a valuer registered under the Valuers Registration Act 1992. I don't see why, if we're being so prescriptive about what we want to see built there, we would just go straight to open market, because as many times we've been told as councils that council can't stop a DA from coming in. So if that property is purchased, a DA could be put into something that we would consider absolutely not suitable. However, often we can't say no because the Planning Act says we virtually have to say yes. So I don't understand why we've got that clause in there, and I'd probably foreshadow an amendment to the recommendation to actually state that it will not go straight to market until it's come back to council for a decision of.
As we have with many other parcels of council land, we put it on the market, but that doesn't mean we're just selling it for the price. We will still have the requirement for a contract that there needs to be a plan of development that the council is satisfied with.
And my other question is, the recommendation number 2 that the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to set reserve prices for the sale and do all things necessary to finalise the sale. Once again, there's no mention in there that there'll be any consultation with councillors about what that reserve might be, or whether we would be happy with the reserve that the CEO might be looking at putting on it. So again, I foreshadow some type of amendment to that recommendation.
My concern comes from if we form an agreement with someone to buy the land based on a plan that council approves that we're happy with. We see all the time development plans get approved and then 10 years down the track they still haven't been built. What happens if we then do the sale based on the plan they've put in, and then they get 10 years down the track and go, oh, we actually don't want to build it anymore, we're going to sell it? Like, what control do we have over that on sale if we've given approval based on a plan rather than an actual, do you get what I'm saying?
And I just see the potential both for us as a city organisation, prime land in a prime location to do the things that we actually need, as this being a fantastic opportunity.
Thank you, CEO. Through the chair, in regards to Councillor Mitchell's comment with regards to the CEO and the reserve, surely it will be market value of whatever it is. It won't go below the market value, will it not?
That's my understanding,
Yeah.
but I understand too that if there's a sale, that would have to be brought back to the chamber to authorise.
So that's right, yeah.
And ultimately, before any contract's signed, the council has to be satisfied with what's proposed in the master plan, and you'll have an opportunity to, give feedback at that time.
Is there able to be clauses in the contract that guarantee, like, can our name stay on the title until at which stage
they have delivered what it is that we're wanting, because if it does get on-sold, and this has happened lots of times, it gets on-sold and then we can't actually dictate to who it gets on-sold to actually deliver this housing solution, and it is a very strategic piece of land, and it would be a dreadful shame for our community if the wrong thing was developed.